Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is another political topic that I'm going to be talking about. And what I'm going to be talking about is basically what I think is the most important issue of my generation, which is probably referred to most likely as the me generation. I do call it the baby boomers generation. Generation me is fine too. I think it's a bit of a underhanded compliment, so to speak, as if we were all just insanely um, uh, what's the word? Selfish, which is not true. Every human being in this world is selfish. We are no exceptions. We just happen to have come from a time period which we are no longer in, which was probably in many ways the greatest political time of the first generation of the American zeitgeist. America will live on for many, many centuries, I believe. I believe that now that food and things like that are more stable, um, nations and things will last longer than they ever have. Um, and people are more humane about the treatment of people. So, that just means that, again, things will last longer. But there will be what are called, I would call them reincarnations of political theories of the certain countries. Like, for instance, Britain will probably go through one, and so will the United States and everybody in the industrialized nations, including the third world nations, blah, blah, blah. They'll all go through reincarnations of different views and points of view. But I'm not really here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about the most important topic of my generation, which I would call is our surveillance society. Okay? Because I can already see the problem emerging from our generation anyway, and it's going to reach its peak. And if we don't at least control it, it will become an issue, or at the very least, a possibility of an issue. Now, as I said before, I always tend to go by what I think is the easiest answer, because the easiest answer is typically the best. I believe they referred to that in science as Occam's razor, which is a good horror film. So we are now at the point where technology is too powerful. So I'm going to break down technology and the movements that it's had, which was its early movement, which was called the Third Estate. I would call it the Third Estate because it was supposed to be something that was supposed to be a free and open forum. And over the last 5 or 6 to 7 years, we've seen that it is no longer a forum of free exchanging ideas, but a place to stick political nonsense in and support your own ideologies and ostracize those that don't. So if you put up a Trump post that's positive, you have all the groups that believe in Trump that will go with you and like it. And then you have all the groups that are negative that will ostracize you and blah, blah, blah. And this is not to say that Trump is a good or bad president. President Trump is whatever to you. I don't care. I'm not here to discuss particular political candidates. As I've said before many times, I don't believe in politics because I don't believe it's very helpful. I don't believe that you should consider a person that has no vested interest in you directly as someone that you can rely on for any type of support, any type of major support, especially. So you're welcome to believe in any candidate you do, but just know that they don't really care about you. That's my opinion. But I'm here to talk about what is the most pivotal thing for my generation, which is surveillance. Because now technology has gone from the third estate to now starting to benefit the powerful. I'm not talking about the rich. I'm talking about the powerful. Okay? And the powerful is a much different idea than the rich. You don't have to be rich to be powerful, and you don't have to be powerful to be rich. Those two things are not synonymous with each other. This is not class warfare I'm engaging in. It has nothing to do with that. I'm talking about people that want to be powerful, okay? And how they will use that to their advantage. Because when you seek power, power works like this. The further you go up, the less you are in other people's interests and the more you're in your own. That's basically just makes you more powerful in many, many ways. The less you seek other people's benefit and your own, the more powerful you are. So, fundamentally, technology is now starting to benefit the powerful because they can use it to make society fall in line to their own particular vision. Okay? And this doesn't matter if it's Democrat or Republican. It makes no difference. No one who is of any political persuasion is perfect. That should be a fairly obvious fact. But what I'm talking about now is the potentiality for technology to benefit a particular power person or triad or institution or something like that. Okay? And this is what we really have to decide. The next generation after that, I believe, will be deciding how powerful they want to make computer processing. Do they want it to exceed the level of the human mind? And if they do, what does that mean? That is not my generation. That won't matter at all in my generation. But what does matter is how we are going to have technology be put in the world to make us safe. Okay? Because this is what it fundamentally comes down to. As I've always said, it's always the simplest answer. People use technology to be safe and stable. Okay? That is throughout the entire course of history. All people use things to stabilize. Okay? But technology is no different than anything else. When you introduce something, you're creating more instability, and the idea is that eventually you'll reach some type of stability, which you will. It will happen. But there's always a cost associated with that. And the more safe you make society, the less safe you make it for the powerful that want to take over it. For instance, if there's a computer or a video monitor or whatever on every block of every street and every place in the world, and they can monitor anything at any time, then you have really no rights to freedom anymore, because you are now completely under surveillance. Okay? That is the way that life works. But what you've traded for that is the ability to make sure that if someone breaks into your house, you don't have to call 911. They have already seen it. They know that they're already acting suspicious. Blah, blah, blah. So you're trading off all of those disenfranchised benefits of not being safe for complete safety but no freedom. And this is what we have to decide, is where that line is. This is my generation. We'll bleed over into how powerful we want to make computers. So there are a couple of different things that you have to understand about this. One is that no matter what you do, there will always be a cost associated with it. And number two, you have to find a balance to where people can live a life of freedom and still enjoy safety. And that usually, in all things, falls basically in the middle, because then no one is happy, 100%. It's just the way it works. And we do not live in a political system right now that encourages any type of middleist thinking. It's all polarized thinking right now, which is of no help to anyone at any time. Because there is no way that you can hold on to a polarized position forever. It just doesn't exist. You can hold on to a middle position forever, but no one would, because it's too boring. So, technically speaking, in a theoretical sense, no position would be held on forever. So, what do we do about technology? Excuse me. What's going on in China is a good example. They're starting now to use facial recognition to be able to give you, when they see you, a social worth point system. Okay, so if you're walking down the street, they can say, hey, this is such and such, and their social worth is 500 out of 600, which means they're a very decent person. Okay, but this person behind them has a 300, which means that they're not as good, which means they don't have access to as many resources. So they start getting kicked further and further down until they're removed from society. And I believe, in my opinion, that is the incorrect way of looking at life. That is too strict a measure. Because first of all, you're asking humans to arbitrarily assign what they view a social standard by, which in no way, shape, or form can ever be a fully correct measure. Even if it was exhaustive in every single way, you don't get down to the human heart. Because someone can be bad their entire life and then do something noble at the end. And someone can be good their entire life and do something disastrous at the end. Because they just have been good their entire life and they just don't care. And there's all kinds of different things that go into it. But I can tell you that having that standard is not an acceptable format for a society. It is just not. Will we get there? Probably not in this generation, but we have the propensity to push it forward if we want to and start really doing what I call the slow march towards that, which is, okay, we want cameras here and here and here because these are dangerous neighborhoods. Then it goes from dangerous neighborhoods to these neighborhoods because they're semi-dangerous, and then so on and so forth until basically the whole situation is under it. And then we could back off or we could go forward. Usually they back off when it gets to be too much. But what I can tell you is this, is that you have to trade safety for this. So a lot of times what's going to be proposed is this will make you safer. Okay? And if you believe that, that's fine, because people do like to be safe. But what you have to believe in that is that you lose your right to freedom. Okay? So understand that from a key point of view, because I am not here to tell you how to think about a particular issue. I gave you my opinion on where it's too far. You have to determine where you think is too far. My goal is not to say, hey, this is correct or that is correct. It's to say, this is how I believe, and this is why I believe, and this is the setup for why I believe it. Okay? So again, the key point of this is, do you want to trade safety for freedom or freedom for safety? And that's the eternal struggle of life, is the more freedom I have, the less safe I am, and the more safe I am, the less freedom I have. So I'm going to leave you with that, because this is a topic that I will be discussing at a further date as things come up, because it will. But until then, Auf Wiedersehen.